What's good, YouTube? Masex back with another video. ESPN recently released a way too early 2026 first round mock draft. So we're going to look at that today, starting at the 32nd pick to ESPN's #1 projected pick. Of course, this is way too early, but when you're a football head like me, and let's be honest, you too, for clicking on this video, then hey, it's all good. So of course, before we get into that, definitely the OGs, appreciate y'all returning. And if you're new to this channel, for sure, hit the like and subscribe button because we got more videos and content, all football things related. Let's go ahead and just get straight to it. 32 to #1. ESPN. And without further ado, let's get to it. So like I said, this is way too early, and the placement of these teams as well is based on Vegas odds. So this means that they project that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl next year, picking last in the first round. And the Buffalo Bills are selecting Jake Slaughter, a center / interior offensive lineman for Florida. Centers don't typically go day one unless they're really special. Slaughter has a lot of hype, really good interior offensive lineman, moves very well, good pass protector, 6'5", 308 pounds. Of course, with franchise QBs, if they're pretty strong and there's no noticeable weaknesses overall, they're going to project an offensive lineman, and that's what's happening here. So we got the Eagles projected to make it to the Super Bowl again. They're going to go wide receiver with Denzel Washington. With Denzel Boston out of Washington, looks like more of a depth piece. I'm not sure how realistic the Eagles are going to spend a day one capital on a wide receiver when you do have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Since the duo's been together, there hasn't been that standout number 3. A.J. is getting closer to 30. Maybe that is something that the Eagles would consider, drafting a number 3 guy. I don't really see the Eagles spending day one capital on a receiver though. At number 30, we got the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon, an IU guy. Had a hell of a 2023 season as a true freshman. 6 interceptions, over 100 tackles, had a lot of hype last year. Purdue was horrible, and just like any really good standout Purdue athlete, they're going to end up transferring after 2 years or so, and that's what he ended up doing. Deep safety, can play in the box as well. As an 18-year-old, had over 100 tackles and 6 picks. He's going to ball out for the Oregon. Kansas City hasn't had a playmaker at the safety position since Honey Badger. With the 29th pick, the Detroit Lions are selecting Tyreek Sapp, an edge rusher out of Florida. We'll see how Aiden Hutchinson looks from a season-ending injury that he had last season in 2024. Didn't really seem to be too much of a focus for the Lions in this year's draft. Tyreek Sapp has good ability. He's about 6'3", 275, really good against the run. With the 28th pick, we got the Baltimore Ravens selecting D'Angelo Pons, cornerback out of Indiana. Of course, me being an IU guy, you get really excited with this one. I mean, with Pons, I'm excited simply because you just don't see IU guys on any type of day one big board, day one mock draft. I mean, that in itself, I'm going to be rooting for Pons. Bust onto the scene last year, had some really good standout games. I mean, he was playing some good football. Baltimore's for sure known for their DBs. If he was to go here, I think he'd really develop into something really nice. All right, with the 27th pick, we got the Los Angeles Rams selecting Drew Aller from Penn State, going into his true senior year. With the Rams and Matt Stafford, I believe he'll be around 37 or so. I think the last few years, they projected some type of quarterback to be the replacement for Stafford once he's ready to hang up the cleats. I can see why you want to draft the replacement, and even if Stafford does play another 1 or 2 years on that contract, then hey, that's development time for Drew Aller. 26, Los Angeles Chargers are selecting C.J. Allen. He's a linebacker out of Georgia. When you think of Jim Harbaugh, you think of really good defense. You think of linebackers more specifically. We remember that run with the 49ers in the early 2010s. Very explosive at the linebacker position. C.J. Allen has good listed size, 6'1", about 235, 240. And you know every year, Georgia's going to have at least 1 or 2 guys projected to go day one. At number 25, the Washington Commanders select A.J. Harris out of Penn State. I'm not sure if they go DB day one. I mean, we'll see how the season unfolds. But they traded for Marshawn Lattimore last year. And also last year, they picked Trey Amos in the 2nd round. Spent some early capital on him. Not sure if that's what they need to do. We'll see how they both play this upcoming season. A.J. Harris definitely has a lot of potential. Really good ball hawker, plays plays the ball very well. He's a press man outside guy. All right, at number 24, the Cincinnati Bengals select Avion Terrell. And yes, he is the younger brother of AJ Terrell, one of the better corners in the league playing for the Falcons. Now for me, the Bengals, it really depends on the Hendrickson situation, because if Hendrickson really stands on business with this contract dispute, I mean, Bengals in a way have no choice to go edge or best available edge next year. Of course, they can always go offensive line. That's always been the talk of the town for Cincy since they've drafted Joe Burrow. Not sure if they go corner here, though we all know that Cincinnati's Bengals defense was historically bad this past year, and it's probably not going to get fixed in one season. All right, at number 23, Isaiah World, offensive tackle out of Oregon. All-pro left tackle Trent Williams isn't going to play forever. He's about 37 years old, and at some point you are going to have to think for the future when it comes to that left tackle position. Isaiah World, a lot of hype coming out of high school. He's massive. He's 6'7", 6'8", over 300 pounds. It's very much well in the realm of possibility where Isaiah World could be the number one offensive tackle next year, and he would not even be available by 23. But yeah, definitely I can agree with this pick for the 49ers if this were to happen. Next at number 22, we got Patrick Payton, an edge rusher out of LSU. Patrick Payton, I made a video, or at least he was in one of my videos last year around this time, as he had a lot of hype going into Florida State, as Florida State had a lot of hype coming off of that undefeated, minus the bowl game, but that undefeated ACC championship season. Everyone at Florida State failed to meet expectation. Patrick Payton, the same. I don't really see him as a day one pick. Had a hell of a sophomore year, 7 sacks. I just don't see him as a day one pick. We'll just have to see with the Buccaneers. They got a good interior defensive lineman with Vea and Cansey. They could definitely use an edge rusher. I just don't think it'll be Patrick Payton. All right, at 21, we got Austin Barber, offensive tackle from Florida, going to the Houston Texans. Losing Laramie Tunsil in an already shaky offensive line in 2024, that's what makes me a little nervous for the Texans. Now, I'm a Colts guy, so I mean, I'm not tripping. We're going to have to see what this offensive line looks like. You can have all the skill positions for the Texans on offense, but if your offensive line is even worse than it was last year, that's going to make it really hard on CJ Stroud. I do think the tackle would be something that the Texans need to address in next year's draft. Austin Barber, I haven't watched much film on him, but definitely a good offensive tackle from what I've heard in scouting reports that I've read. He's 6'6", about 320, and does very well in zone blocking schemes. All right, the Denver Broncos are selecting Eli Stowers, tight end out of Vanderbilt. Stowers was in my tight ends video leading up to the 2025 draft, decided to come back for another year. They just recently signed Evan Ingram, but Evan Ingram, we'll see how he played. Didn't have the best 2024 season with the Jaguars. This may be a position that they'll need to look for in the draft. I don't see Stowers as a day one guy, but, you know, out there in Vanderbilt, maybe he can have a big, huge breakout season. But I don't see Stowers as a day one pick, nor do I really see the Broncos investing first round draft capital for a tight end. All right, at number 19, we got the Green Bay Packers selecting LT Overton, edge rusher out of Alabama. Overton, a 5-star guy, was pretty much a consensus top 5 recruit coming out of his class. He's 6'5", 285 now. He's really grown into a huge, massive edge rusher. I'm not sure Packers need necessarily an edge rusher day one. They're known for investing a lot into their defensive line. So, I mean, you look at history, this is something the Packers would do. LT Overton, definitely with that scheme versatility, his size, his speed combination is really nice. All right, at number 18, ESPN has Tim Keenan III, another defensive lineman from Alabama, an interior defensive lineman more specifically. I remember this year the Vikings were linked to a lot of interior defensive linemen, Harmon, for example. They went offensive line. I could definitely see them going defensive line. Defense definitely was most improved in the league last year. They had a really good defense. Brian Flores definitely turned that defense around. Realistic that they can go interior defensive lineman. Tim Keenan, still need to watch a little bit more film on him, but I heard he's definitely got a lot of potential. All right, at number 17, we got the Chicago Bears selecting Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Love's been in a couple of my videos so far this season. A lot of hype coming into his junior year. Last year, this time, RB1 was being Ollie Gordon. We'll see if Jeremiah Love can keep that. Chicago's invested a lot on the offense and free agency as well as the draft. I personally don't see the Bears going running back. All right, right, number 16, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting LaNorris Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina. Aaron Rodgers recently was on the podcast with Pat McAfee. He acknowledged, hey, this is why I signed a one-year deal. I want to go out on my own terms. I'm sure he didn't want to go out the way he went out in New York. Regardless if he's playing 1 year or does want to play 2 years, the Steelers, you got to look for the quarterback position day one. You tried that a few years ago, forcing Kenny Pickett into day one, even though I knew he wasn't a day one talent. So hopefully you can do that with LaNorris Sellers, which I do think at this stage LaNorris Sellers has a lot more upside than a Kenny Pickett. He's kind of got that Anthony Richardson vibe, but he is 6'3", over 240 pounds. Rumored to run a 4.3, has all the arm strength in the world, needs to develop as well. They need a quarterback to push them over the hump. I'm sure fans in Steeler country are tired of going 9-8, 10-7 every single year and losing in the wild card. And at number 15, the Dolphins are selecting Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. McCoy was in my recent video. As I mentioned then, the ACL tear, you really just got to wait and see how his body reacts to it. I mean, the Dolphins, especially losing Ramsey, and the defense just isn't as strong as it was in previous years, especially when Flores was there. He's got enough speed for the Dolphins. You know, they love their speed. This is a realistic landing spot, in my opinion. All right, at number 14, we got the Arizona Cardinals selecting Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson. This coming 2 drafts after selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the top 5 pick. Obviously, he didn't have the rookie season we all hoped and projected. They went defense last year with Walter Nolan. But wide receiver is still an area of weakness for me just overall. Even if Marvin Harrison Jr. does take that next step and have a good season, they still need a little bit more depth at that wide receiver position. Michael Wilson definitely has some talent. All right, number 13, we got the Dallas Cowboys selecting Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. I think this is more in response to the contract situation with Micah Parsons. You don't know how that's going to go. They signed Fowler Jr. over the free agency this year. But Falk, good listed size, 6'6", 288. I don't really know much about him. But I think that with the Cowboys, this is more of just a projection piece in case the Micah Parsons situation doesn't go as planned. All right, we got the Cleveland Browns. This pick is originally from Jacksonville. Cleveland selecting Caleb Lemieux, offensive tackle out of Utah. I'll say this, Utah better average about 6.8 yards on the ground because I'm seeing so many offensive linemen from Utah listing in a lot of big boards and mock drafts so far at this stage of the season. So if they don't run like 6.8 yards per carry, then that's a travesty. But no, with the Cleveland Browns, I definitely get it. Offensive line definitely has taken a step back or two the last couple of seasons. Lemieux is projected to be a really good offensive lineman. All right, at number 11, my Indianapolis Colts are selecting Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of Louisiana State. Another quarterback I've watched a lot of snaps for. The first month of the college football season last year, you thought Nussmeier was coming out and potentially being QB1. Definitely flamed out a little bit as the season went on, but I like Nussmeier. I like gunslinging type quarterbacks. He's got a lot of arm talent. His father is a coordinator for the Saints, so he's got the lineage. His father played QB back in his day. Now, if we're picking at number 11, most likely the Colts, our season didn't go very well, which means in likeliness, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson didn't pan out. Just recently had a little bit of a nagging injury. I'm not sure how serious that is, but when you've been scarred his first 2 years with him getting injured every 6 plays, it already makes you nervous, and we haven't even started the season. I'm not sure if Nussmeier will get drafted this high in general, but it's one of those where I hope that the Colts aren't in a top 11 position because, yeah, we are going to have to go quarterback. All right, now we're in ESPN's top 10. At number 10, we got the Seattle Seahawks selecting Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah. Talked about him a little bit and the potential that he has. Very good tackle. Played a lot of left, played some right. I think if I had to say right now, he would be my number 1 offensive tackle. Seattle Seahawks have been projected to have some offensive line more in the interior the last couple years. But Spencer Fano, if they can get what I think could be a foundation building offensive tackle, I mean, I think that would really serve them well offensively. We'll see how Sam Darnold looks, if Kenneth Walker can stay healthy. The wide receiver room looks a lot different, so we'll see how JSN looks. They may have to bolster the wide receiver next year. Fano, if he's at number 10 and he plays how we think he will, this is a slam dunk pick for the Seahawks. Now, Fano at this stage to me is the best offensive tackle from what I've seen, but the offensive tackle with the highest ceiling is Caden Proctor. The Los Angeles Rams, that pick from Atlanta at number 9 are selecting Caden Proctor. 6'7", 370 pounds. He's one of those tackles you're like, man, I hope he gets it together, because if he does, he could be one of the best. So this would be the Rams' first pick of the 2026 draft. So yeah, if you can get a potential generational tackle in Caden Proctor and then follow it up with a day one QB that you believe can take the keys after Matthew Stafford hangs it up, this is a really good draft. All right, at number 8, we got Jordan Tyson being selected by the Patriots, wide receiver out of Arizona State. I'd say right now Tyson is wide receiver number 1. I may have mentioned it in the wide receiver video I posted recently that he has some Jackson Smith and Jigba in him. He's crafty, solid size, really good season last year, 75 catches, over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. And with Drake May, you're always looking, because you view him, if you're the Patriots, as a franchise quarterback, you want to put as many weapons and as much protection around him to propel the New England Patriots offense. It makes sense. All right, number 7, Las Vegas Raiders are selecting Ruben Bain Jr. He's an edge rusher out of Miami. This past 2025 draft, the Raiders selected Ashton Jeanty with their first pick and then continued on an offensive streak. The Raiders have pretty much overhauled and turned over their entire offense over the last 2 seasons, from quarterback to running back to wide receivers, even the offensive line. On defense, they have Max Crosby, and that's about it. Their defense may be pretty bad next year, and especially if they're picking in the top 10, you got to realize that, hey, they're either going to go quarterback, because that means Geno Smith might not have worked out, or the defense was just so bad, and you do have to go out and get an edge rusher with Ruben Bain. All right, at number 6, the Carolina Panthers are selecting Peter Woods, interior defensive lineman out of Clemson. Woods, in my last video, talked about he is one of my favorite prospects in the entire class. I think this would make a really good tandem with Derek Brown, who I think really needs some help over there on the defensive line. Woods has versatility, played edge rusher in 2024 for Clemson, got a lot of scheme versatility. He's 315 pounds. All right, in ESPN's top 5 now, New Orleans Saints at number 5 are selecting safety Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. A lot of people will tell you Caleb Downs is the best player in this draft. He's number 1 on a lot of big boards that you're seeing going into this season. Safeties usually don't get picked in the first round. That just shows how good Caleb Downs is projected to be. 6 foot, 205 pounds, the younger brother of Josh Downs. He can play in the box, he can play safety, you can put him in the slot. If you're the Saints, it's best player available, especially if you're picking in the top 5. Go out there and get you a playmaker like Caleb Downs if he's available, even if that's the 5th pick. All right, New York Jets at number 4 selecting Anthony Hill, linebacker out of Texas. Anthony Hill is one of the best defender prospects in this class, to be honest. 6'3", 235. Not sure if a standing linebacker goes top 4. Anthony Hill Jr. is a player good enough to do that, but just positional value in today's game, I don't really see a linebacker going in the top 4. When you think about when the Jets were competitive, those few years here in the 2020s, it was because they had a really good defense. And Anthony Hill Jr. would add to that. I'm not sure at number 4, especially with them picking so high. Most likely the Justin Fields experiment did not work. I think there may be more pressing needs than stand-up linebacker. All right, we're in the top 3. The Tennessee Titans are selecting TJ Parker, defensive end out of Clemson. 6'3", 265. Can do everything you want. I do think that he will be edge rusher number 1, and this actually would be a really good fit for Tennessee as well. They're in 2-4 nickel a lot. I think that would serve very well for TJ Parker's skill set, lining up on the edge. Last year, 11 sacks, forced hella fumbles as well. This would be a slam dunk. TJ Parker could realistically be the number 1 pick, for being honest. All right, at number 2, we got the New York Giants selecting Francis Mauigoa. He's an offensive tackle out of Miami. 5-star guy coming out of high school. Played right away at the right tackle position. New York's missed on a lot of offensive linemen over the years. Francis Mauigoa, this is a realistic landing zone for him, being a number 2 pick, number 3, number 4 pick. You draft Jackson Dart in 2025, you definitely need really good offensive lineman to keep him upright and to make plays. Francis Mauigoa, he is the real deal. I really like his game. Watched a lot of him so far, as he was in my latest video as well. He's one of the linemen that I'm really excited to see next year. I really think he could be a top 2 pick next year. All right, and at number 1, ESPN has the Cleveland Browns with that pick, and they have them selecting Cade Klubnik out of Clemson. Now, if they're picking number 1 and Cade Klubnik has the year following a really hot true junior year, it's kind of like with Tennessee, in my opinion, where Cade Klubnik may not be a generational quarterback, but in a way you kind of have to pick him. And that's where Tennessee was this past draft. If Cleveland's number 1, then they're probably there too. Now, they spent 2 picks, a 3rd round investment on Dillon Gabriel, and then obviously we all know what happened to Shedeur Sanders falling to the 5th round. Now, I like both quarterbacks. Joe Flacco is the projected starter. You also got Kenny Pickett. So I don't even know if Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders would even get an opportunity, even if they did suck really bad, because projected right now, there's 2 quarterbacks ahead of both of them. But honestly, I don't think Cleveland will be this bad. I don't think they'll have the 1st pick overall. Cade Klubnik is projected QB1 so far this season right now. And if Cleveland does play Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and they're really horrible, maybe they do give Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders a look at the end of that season to see if, hey, if they do get the 1st pick, maybe they'll use that as leverage to gain a lot of assets and build around the entire team. We'll just have to see. But Cade Klubnik right now, that's realistic that he can be the 1st pick overall next year. All right, there you have it. This is ESPN's first way too early mock draft for the 2026 NFL draft. Definitely a little bit different style of video right now, but I love mock drafts, so I definitely want to do videos like this where we're just going over different mock drafts, you know, just throughout the season. I know you guys like a lot of mock drafts just like I do. If you made it this far in the video, of course, this is definitely one of my longer videos. But hey, I deeply appreciate that. Liking and subscribing also support, so hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate my OGs as well. Be on the lookout for the next video here coming soon. It's the dead period, but hey, there's always something to talk about in the world of football. So appreciate you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Cheers!